Been a while on this one.
It really has been, and I do feel bad because this is one of the earliest shows that shows. This is one of
shows.
I know. This is one of the earlier manga that I gave you to read, and you really enjoyed it, and then we just never got back to it because I got busy showing you other things, and then you showed me things, and it just, like, a vicious cycle. And 2024 is the year where we actually complete things, or, like, follow up on stuff that we say we like. That's what we're going to call it.
Until we fill our New Year's resolution 3 weeks in and just give up.
Look, you gotta have hope, you gotta have hope. Don't be so pessimistic. You know what I mean? Anyways, so Bakuman. So slight change to some of our off the shelves will be coming, but in some series, one volume at a time isn't necessarily conducive to us actually being able to read through the entire series, but neither is read the entire series.
No.
Right? Because, like, Bakuman's, 20 volumes or so? 24 volumes? So I can't expect Nick Nack to read the entire thing in, like, a day like I would, because he's got work and other stuff, and, I do nothing. I'm joking. So we've decided to split it up, and we'll be doing 4 volumes at a time, and that should get us through the series by kind of middle of the year. And then we can start something different, but we'll actually have completed something that we enjoyed. So today, even though we've technically already done volume 1, we're doing volumes 1 through 4, technically. But in reality, it's more like 2 through 4, because we've already reviewed volume 1. So for those of you who maybe didn't watch the original Bakuman video or have never heard of Bakuman, and it has been made into an anime, I did check, because I've seen the anime. This is about 2 high schoolers who are trying to become the next big Jump manga artist and author, like, duo. They write under one pseudonym. One of them writes the story, one of them does the illustrations. They're, 14, 15 in high school, and this is what they want to do, and they are willing to do just about anything to get there. So, do you want to start? Because you really liked this, and I have some stuff I want to touch on, but I remember you really liked this series.
Yeah, I really like this. I just like myself good industry pieces in general, and this is extremely freaking detailed. Like, this was published in Shonen Jump, right?
I'm not sure. Would you like me to look it up?
Yeah, can you check that for us?
Yeah.
Because this is not flattering to Shonen Jump at some points. Like, you could tell this was written, if this was written by a Shonen Jump, like, previous mangaka, because, oh man, does there feel like there's some baggage being unloaded here.
Okay, so Bakuman was originally... I need to not be so close to the mic when I'm talking loudly. Bakuman was published in Weekly Shonen Jump when it was coming out. Let's see. Shonen Demographic, published by Shueisha. It is a comedy, coming of age, slice of life.
Doesn't it share an author with
So it is written and illustrated by 2 different people, much like in the thing. It is written by the person who wrote Death Note.
That's what I thought.
It's written by the person who wrote Death Note, and has also collaborated with others for My Little Monster and Platinum End, and it is illustrated by the person who did illustrations for Hikaru no Go and Death Note. So they worked together on Death Note as well.
When this came out, wasn't this their big follow-up to Death Note? Like, didn't this come out just post-Death Note?
Same creative... Alright, so this started coming out in Weekly Shonen Jump in August 2008. Death Note ended in May of 2006.
So this was their follow-up to Death Note, more or less.
Pretty much must have been.
Like, maybe a couple projects in there, but you can feel the... Like, in some of the chapters we read this time, you can feel sort of the spice from their feelings on trying to get things published.
Based on the production comments from the authors, it doesn't seem like they're trying to make a commentary about, like, Death Note in particular.
Not Death Note in particular, but their career in particular.
Yeah. So apparently the title means essentially, like, an explosion or a gamble of, like, an animal that eats dreams or something. So it's got like a symbolic sort of meaning, which is pretty interesting. Oh, that's even more interesting. Apparently, when creating chapters of this, they didn't meet with one another. They met with the editor individually and transferred stuff through the editor. But they still, like, never really had any disagreements or anything. Apparently, according to their editor, there were only ever, like, minor changes needed to be made. Which is, that's pretty interesting. Anyways, but... however, the Weekly Shonen Jump editor-in-chief was asked at the time that this came out about the accuracy of the manga process, right? And he said that it is a work of fiction, so some things are exaggerated for dramatic effect, but it does take a lot of its details from real life, so it's quite close. And it does feature a lot of homages to manga Michi, which is a semi-autobiographical manga series with a similar premise that Obata, one of the authors, is incredibly fond of, written by Fujiko A. Fujio. Yeah, who was also part of a mangaka duo. And what did they write? I'm curious now, because if this is based on, like, if this has a lot of kind of Doraemon. Interesting. Okay. So a lot, but yeah.
You know, industry pieces always get me, like, I love them. They're my bread and butter, I feel like. But it's like a lot happened with what we've read here, and I love that the main characters, they don't usually, like, at least where we've read to, they don't usually get the best outcome. Like, entire 4 volumes we read. They submit multiple manga each time, and it doesn't usually go their way until, like, the very, very last time they finally get things to go their way.
Even then, it's not really going super well their way. It's really kind of...
There's a lot of doubt as to whether or not they can do it going into this.
Yeah. So, one of the things I was going to mention that I really enjoyed about it was there was a moment when they were in the offices and they were talking about how they were surrounded by the great shonen works, and it showed panels of, like, the images
actual
of, like, One
Shonen
Piece
Jump.
and, like, other Shonen Jump works, and I thought that was really cool because it really is like a direct homage, you know?
If they ever did a live action of this, it would be funny if they just had cameos of, like, actual mangaka.
It would
Though
be
some mangaka are pretty secretive, so.
Yeah, you'd have, but there's plenty in Shonen Jump who aren't, so you would be able to do a fair amount. I do think... I do like the fact that... So, what reading through Volume 4 of this told me was that I've definitely read further in the past. So I had forgotten how much of this series I read because I never bought more than the first volume. But I can confirm for sure now that I definitely read further into this than Volume 4, right? So I've definitely made it into Volume 5 and beyond. And so I think for me it was interesting seeing them kind of flip-flop around on ideas. They tried a couple of sci-fis first, and they were told, like, these are good, but they're not exactly the demographic, and you have to consider that. And I think that's really important to note, and I like that they like to make that commentary pretty often, that, like, these two kids, like, this duo, they're not putting out bad stories, but the problem is they're with an editor for Shonen Jump, essentially. And the stories that they're writing are not necessarily Jump demographic.
But they also have to consider where their actual strengths lie, because, like, they then try to shift too far in the other direction into the, let's just do a shonen battle manga, and they suck at it.
Well, they don't suck at it, but they're missing, like, some of the key components, and then when they do get those key components in, the editor brings up a good point. It's not enough to just do a big shonen by the numbers, even if it's good. You need to have something about it that's unique, that's spectacular, that's surprising. You know what I mean? And I do really feel like that was a really good commentary to anyone who's ever creating anything. The most important part about your creation is for it to be unique, right? For you to have something about it that makes it different from everything else, even if you're still writing the same story, right? Like, change something about it that makes it unique in yours, and that's really important. And I liked that they really focused on that. I also love the introduction of the other kind of genius mangaka, the other 15-year-old, because he's so fucking weird.
I love that he's weird, but like at first I thought he was going to be this big antagonist figure. No. He's one of the side supporting characters and
Yeah.
kind of fun.
He's like, genuinely, this is great. I love this. It's interesting because they get introduced to this other like young genius mangaka, and he kind of looks at them and he's like, "Who are you?" And they tell him who they are, right? Like their screen name, and he's like, "Oh my god, I love your work. Like your story. I could never write something like that." And I think that really just goes to show that, you know, even though these two, like this group, these two and him are setting up to be like, they're set up, right, to be like these rivals writing in the same space, and then that's not what it ends up being. It ends up being like, we will drive each other to be the best we can be because we have different strengths and we're good at different things, right? Because this other kid, he has like no industry knowledge, right? And he's very like flow of thought creative, right? Like he writes what interests him and he does what interests him, and to hell with everything else. And I, in all honesty, really empathize with that because I'm that way often when it comes to reading and writing as well. Like especially academically, I cannot read or write things that really have no interest with me without extreme struggle and difficulty. I would rather write 100 self-assigned papers on topics I'm super interested in than one topic that I have no interest in, right? Like, I struggle to do that. So I really understand where he's coming from when he's like, I write what interests me, and it just kind of appears in my head. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like what's in this man's head is sometimes what's in my head, and I've made this joke before, but I don't write fan fiction, right? Because I don't have the attention span to write fan fiction. I cannot sit down and commit any like story or fan fiction ideas I have to paper, but that doesn't mean that there aren't like 100 of them at any given time in my head. I'm just thinking like, ooh, I'd love to read a fan fiction like this and planning it all out in my head and stuff like that. I'm never going to write it though, because I don't have the attention span to do that. Knick-Knack is very opposite from me on this spectrum. Like, you are able to just kind of sit down and like allocate time and power through things, and that is not a talent that I have.
I mean, yeah.
And no, I mean, it's not bad for either of us. Like, I'm fully aware that my talent is not in actually scheduling out time to sit down and do something.
You think it's scheduled?
Let me rephrase that. My fallback is to read, not to pursue other creative outputs.
I hope you know that when I write, the reason my writing is because most of my best ideas come to me while I'm half asleep. So if I wanted it to be any good, I'd have to go back and re-edit it all in the morning, and I don't do that.
But you have the drive to put it down to paper that I don't have. Because I have plenty of like story ideas for stuff like that, but I just do not have the drive to even put it down in rough draft format. You know? Mm-hmm. Like sometimes I'm writing papers and I'll just think about what I want to write without ever writing it down, and then I get in trouble because I have nothing written down when it comes time for it to be done, and I don't remember half of what I was thinking about for the last 3 weeks because I never wrote any of it down. So I get it. I really understand the other one.
One of my favorite moments within the manga that happened was when they were struggling to come up with a good like new idea, and they're with the crazy guy, the crazy prodigy guy, and he's just like, I need a new idea for this story. Goes and pulls out like his old ideas that he scrapped previously.
Yeah.
That was like, I've done that before.
That's not a bad idea, and they brought up something interesting there, and that's that if you are someone who genuinely enjoys like writing and drawing, like you will be doodling and writing constantly. Like maybe you keep it on a list in your phone, maybe you keep it in a notebook in your bag.
I've got like 700 notes in my phone. Whenever I need to reset my phone's account to do FGOJP stuff or switch back to NA and it needs to reload everything, I spend like 30 minutes as all my notes reload one by one.
Well, but that's what I mean. Like so it's I really get that too, because I used to do that too with doodles, right? Like growing up, like doodles in the sides of my notes or like little ideas scribbled in the corner and stuff like that. And so it's a good fallback. I also love the kind of the reveal at the end of volume 3, right, where he's decided he's going to work on this detective manga that he had, and he's like, I need storyboards, and he's like, is my friend even working? He's spending so much time with his girlfriend, and then like the final panel of volume 3 is his friend writing a detective manga manuscript and going, I need to get the storyboards out in 2 days so I can give them to him. Like, they are synced in the brain.
I don't think he had fully settled on detective at that point.
No, he said, though.
Was it?
He said he was writing a detective storyboard. Like, specifically.
Because at that time, they were still trying to do the battle.
Yeah, well, that's what... Because at the end of Volume 3, he makes the comment. He goes, I know we're supposed to be doing the battle, but I'm writing this detective script, and I have to get it out in 2 days. And the other guy's writing the detective, and they've not communicated about this at all. And so I just think it's a really funny, like, sync moment and a great place to
It's
end
fun where
the
they
volume.
share a brain cell.
Yeah. They also have, like, the same level of, like, but in very different ways, which I think is fun to interact with. I did enjoy the industry talks, you know, the discussions of how reader surveys work and kind of the demographics of Jump and how, like, particular demographics, like the girls reading something, right, can make up a relatively large portion of the audience that authors don't necessarily think about, as well as the kind of contracts and payments.
Crow.
Caw.
He really was my favorite character in all this.
He's a fun character. And I really liked when we got when we kind of got his little bit of character development, when they finally managed to beat it into his skull that he needs to storyboard and discuss things with his editors and actually come to the table rather than just doing whatever he wants and hoping it goes well.
Wasn't there a part... Sorry, it's been a couple weeks since I've read this. Wasn't there a part where literally they're being scolded by their editor and then, like, right in the background they get interrupted by him getting scolded by his editor? I love that part.
Yeah. It's glorious. I think it's super fun. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how far this goes, because I haven't finished it. I know I've read further than this, but I haven't finished it. So I look forward to us doing volumes 5 through 8 next.
We'll see. It'll be more volumes of this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, you know, maybe Nick Nack's so fired up about it, he'll want to do like 5 through 12 or something.
Don't count on it.
Anyways, with that being said, we will see you next time with more mangas to read. Like, comment, subscribe.
I ain't got an outro for this.